Hello to whoever finds this journal. My days in Maryland have been rewarding as they are troublesome, and as often dangerous. I have spent the last 6 years assembling my notes in hopes the knowledge I have gained over the time spent in this world to bring good fortune to whoever finds this, and to help them get a better understanding of the world they are about to enter. My intent is to create a compendium of how the world works, what it has to offer, and how you can survive and prosper. There are times I feel my work will only serve more confusion about what I found, but I also felt it necessary to compose my ideas and experience to illuminate a path to those who wish to explore. Contained within are recipes, survival tips, warnings, and more, all in an effort to promote safe travels and an overall awareness of the world you are entering. There will be times when you will be tested in ways this compendium can neither prepare you for or help you from. Your choices as a player and a guild may lead to swift and unprecedented consequences. I believe this to be the ultimate guide for survival and success. Welcome to Mortal Online 2. Hello and welcome to part 2 of our mining guide. Today we are going to talk about the process of which you can turn the rocks we gathered from part 1 into metals. I won't list all the metals, but to show a short guide on how you can combine and what skills you will need to learn to process these materials into metals, today we will focus on how to make Bron, Cuprum, messing, and steel, some building metals and some crafting metals. One thing to quickly note before we take our dive into metals is they work similar to wood. You have heavy, dense, hard metals, and you have softer, lighter metals. The heavy and dense metals are going to be mostly used for building, or if you turn them into armor training, or as a byproduct to make a lighter, softer metal, those are going to be used for your weapons and armor. But for it to be said, the heavy metals can be used in weapons like hammers and axes and blunt weapons to make them hit like a semi-trucks. So like always in this sort of game, experiment with the different metals and combinations. There's thousands of them, and find what works for you or what works for your customers. So there is a lot of skills that you need and that we didn't cover from the first part. This is once again going to be a bit of an info dump, but it is necessary to do. So if you already know the skills or have the skills, check the description and move on to the next part. So I will list only the primaries, and don't worry if you have trouble keeping up. There's a link in the description below for mortaldata.com. It's what I use to help keep track of all the skills for this guide, so you can use that sort of like a character builder. Alchemy and alchemical dissolvents. These both are primaries, and what this does is when you are turning coal into coke or using rock oil as a catalyst, this helps your yield be more significant and less wasteful. Alchemy can be found at any town at the common librarian, however alchemical dissolvents cannot. There is no book for this. The best way to train this skill is through action. It will increase naturally as you use catalysts, but to speedrun it, you can always use salt and water. Next, under the crafting appliances, you will need ore extraction appliances and everything underneath that. Everything but the blast furnace is a secondary, and these are appliances and tools that you will need to extract those rocks from part 1. You can find the extraction book in all towns at the extraction librarian, as well as all the books underneath it. Next, under extraction, you will need basic ore extraction, intermediate, and if you choose to go for the end game metals, advanced ore extraction. With these skills, you will be able to create more metals, more valuable metals, and the best weapons and armor in the game, or the metals for those. You can find these in all towns at the material lore librarian. From there, you will need to go look at your material lore and the primary skill, metallurgy, and everything under that with the optional master alloys. This is your metals that you are learning to make. With these skills are very important, as when you use them to craft with or to try to make it, it will affect its yield and how strong the metal is when crafting an item with it. Most of the books can be found at any town at the material librarians, or if it's an advanced metal skill, check the Ordo or Torum, or the Army Custis Librarian, located in Medulli or Faberdum. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciations, take a shot. And finally, you will need the petrology for the rocks that you will be mining and handling. You can learn them mostly through action, but can also be located at the material librarian or the petrologist librarian in mostly every town or tindrum. Altogether, this is 900 or 1100 skill points. It won't leave you enough room to craft with, but without you, the extractor, crafting couldn't happen, and you can control the price of these metals. For example, a stack of steel goes for roughly 300 gold, give or take the market demand, and as the producer, you control that demand. or the market. Currently, I'm trying to test a build as a weapon crafter to see if I can craft up to steel as well as refined steels. So more on this in part 3 when we cover how to make weapons. Okay, welcome in. We are in Bodki at the crafting hut. I have my horse here. He has all the necessities on him, and he's getting a nice little toasty bum. So our first metal we are going to make is Cuprum. Now, before we make the Cuprum, we have to make coke, and to do that, we have to get our coal. So we have 10,000, 15,000 coal. And to make this, we have to put it into this here furnace. I'm surprised I can walk. So with our 10,000 coal, and there's a couple ways you can make coal. You could either use calyx powder, which is probably the best way to do it, since calyx powder is kind of, you get more from actually crushing it, or you can use the coal. So do we have any? No, I didn't put any on my horse, so we're just going to use the coal. So we'll put the 10,000 into the resource tab, and then from the catalyst for 10,000 we are going to use 535, and this was mentioned in part 1 when we were doing the miner's guide, going over how to make this stuff. If you haven't watched it, please check it out. If not, links down in the description. As always, I'm using Norsca Rock Bible. It's pretty popular among the community, and there's a lot more information than what you might get from this video, since we're just doing the basics. So 10,000 resource to 535 catalysts. We're going to start extraction. Now, we might not get our max yield because I don't have any coke lore. As you see right here, coke lore 0. So once this comes out, up here you see that it's extracting the item, so it's going to take a couple seconds. But once this comes out, we have 1,500 coke. Now with full coke lore, you should get 7,200. So I'm really cheating myself out of this by not having the lore, but you know, you kind of learn it as you do it. You can read books, and there's a ton of books that you would need while doing this. So now that we have our coke, we can combine that. There's two ways. We can use malachite, and we can use amaranthum. So let's use our amaranthum first, since we have more of that. We're going to put this back into the furnace, and we're going to have to use bore to smelt this. So we should be using 100 or 720 bore. I don't have that much. I only have 129. So let's do like 2,000 of it. We're gonna put that there, that here, and I might try, and it might not come out. We should get about 2,400 cuprum out of this. However, again, I don't have full lures, so we only got 61. We didn't do a full round. So you'd want to take that stack of amaranthum and put it with 720 bore, and that should give you 2,400. We got 61 because of our lures. We got some electrum out of it and some calamine. So both of these are actually healing reagents, and mages will eat that up. We also got some black out of it, so that's really cool. This pitch, I'm not sure what this pitch is. It's a sticky black liquid made from coal. I'm not sure what that is. So now that we did it with that, let's try the malachite. So we have a half a stack of malachite, and we are going to split that into 5,000. This is another way you can make cuprum. And this is the more efficient way to make cuprum, because this is going to use our coke. So with the malachite, we are going to put a half a stack of that into the resource. Now for a full stack of malachite, we want 385 coke. So because we're using a half a stack of malachite, we're going to have to use half of 385, which is 192.5. So we're just going to round it up to 193. And we're going to put that in there. And this should, if we had full lure and using full materials, should get us 4,000 cuprum rather than the 2,700. And you get malachite from grinding down calyx. So it's going to take another 5 seconds. And that actually gave us, so we had 61 before. That gave us 259. So as you see, there's a whole lot more Cuprum to come out that, and none of these other things have changed values. So it only gave us Cuprum, and that's about the best way to make Cuprum. And like I said, Cuprum is used for greater heals and spells. It's used for heavy armors. It's used in some weapons. It's a very versatile metal, but there's more that we have to do with this metal, so we have to make more of this metal. Okay, so you know how I said Cuprum is the most versatile metal. It's used in magic and for weapons and armor and just a bunch of things. Well, Cuprum is also used to make Bron, but in order to turn it into Bron, we need Black Blend. So I had to come to Meduli and mine up a bunch of Sabura. I might mine more, just to make the trip out of Botkey worth it. So I'll do that later, and then in the next clip we'll go somewhere else. So once we get our Black Blend out of this crusher, and I didn't mention it in part 1 of the mining guide, that a general rule of thumb, and I wouldn't have known this if it wasn't mentioned in the help chat, is a general rule of thumb is you want to crush for a better yield of ore, and you want to grind for a better yield of powder, which makes sense. You know, you want to grind the rock into powder, and you want to crush it to get your ore chunks out. So out of one ore pile, we get 958 black. Now you're probably going to get more if you have max lore. Again, my character doesn't have max lore. So what we need to do from here is take this Black Blend up to Tindrum or Morinker, depending on where you are in the world, and put it in a natterus with rock oil to get the best yield for black. So we're going to take this up to Tindrum and turn it into black. Again, I might stay here and mine more ore just to make the trip worth it, but I'll see you over in Tindrum. Okay, so we're in Tindrum, and I just wanted to start recording from here. There's always questions on where the natterus is in Tindrum. You can find 2 natteruses in the world. One's in Tindrum, one is somewhere in Morinker. There is also a greater natterus up above Galkor. And the difference between a natterus and a greater natterus for when you are trying to make black out of Black Blend, the greater natterus you can only use bore. So take 720 bore to a stack of Black Blend. If you're at the greater natterus, you should get about 6,000 black. The natterus, if you use 720 bore or 420 rock oil, you'll get about 5,400, and that's what we are going to end up doing. But I wanted to start recording from here because everybody keeps asking where the natterus is in Tindrum and where it's at in the world. So we are looking at the front gates of Tindrum facing south. So if we were to walk into town, this is like the town square. Right here is the crafting building, and the natterus is just upstairs of here. I just thought it would be a little bit important to show where it is and how to get to it, what it looks like and whatnot. So we're going to go up here and we are going to make black. Then we got to run back to Botkey to complete making our Bron. So this is the extraction natterus. It kind of looks like a still for moonshine. So let's go ahead and pull this out of our horse. I did end up mining more Sabura just to get a stack of blend. It was only like 3 more stacks. So with full lures, every stack of Sabura that you crush, you should get a bit over 100 Black Blend. So we're gonna put this into the natterus now. So we're taking our stack, we're gonna split our rock oil to 420, and again, we're not going to get the 5,400 because I don't have full lures with anything. Once we do this, you'll see my skills start shooting up. So let's go ahead and do that, and we should get a couple thousand black, I'm hoping. So our black lore is only 30, intermediate ore, extraction, basic metals. So it's going to take some seconds. It's going to take about 5 more seconds. Okay, we got 1,260. Not quite the 5,000 we were hoping for, but again, we got 30 black lore. So now we're going to take the 84 that's left over of our rock oil and combine it to 2,000 black, because if you need 420, for a stack, then you should need 42 for 1,000, 84 for 2,000. So we're gonna make the rest of this and try to, okay, our lore went up by 2 more levels. I'm gonna have to read a book on that. You're gonna need to read so many books. There's so many books. Now, boar is the cheapest option. Well, I guess I wouldn't say the cheapest option, depending on where you're at in the world. It's, you can actually gather boar down in Meduli. Rock oil, you can buy it at a reagent vendor. 420 costs somewhere around like 9 gold. Or you can kill walkers in the graveyard and they drop reagents, including rock oil. So that's how you gather rock oil. If you don't have the money to pay for it, you just fight walkers. They drop a couple tens of rock oil, or you go down to Meduli and pick up boar. So again, we have to take this to Baki, and I will see you guys in the next part. Alright, so we're in Baki and we need to turn this Cuprum into Bron. So we're going to open our refining window. Because we are turning the Cuprum that we crafted first into Bron, and we now have our black, we're going to put the Cuprum into the resource tab. Now we are going to take 200 black, because it's a 2-to-1-1 ratio, or 80%, 10%, 10%, whatever is easier math for you guys to do, in the catalyst. So we're going to put our black here and our Sabura here. I don't think it matters which way you go through here, and then we're going to see what happens. So we have 400 catalyst and 600 resource. That should have made 1,000, or that should have made 100%. But I guess we still don't have the skills. You learned a new skill, Bron lore. But there's no Bron here. Okay, that's interesting. There we go. So I didn't have the lore. As you see, the lore was 9. So when I did it the first time, it unlocked the lore, so I just had to do it again. And now we have, now that we unlocked the Bron lore and we knew what we were trying to make, or our character did. Whatever, we made some Bron. Okay, so we made 121 Bron. Now, with this I don't know the yields on what the max lore should give you. Like, if you had 100 lore and everything, I don't know the max yield that it would give you, or that you should receive back. But like I said, we did 600 Cuprum to 200 black to 200 Sabura powder, and it gave us 121 Bron. So if anybody in the comments knows what max yield should be, or what your max return should be on that, let me know. Let us know. As always, we'll pin the most helpful comment. Okay. Now that we got the basic metals out of the way, or the refining metals out of the way, such as like Cuprum and Bron, we're going to move on to messing. And messing is one of my favorite metals. It makes really good armor and it makes really good weapons, and it's actually pretty easy to produce. I think it should be a standard for most guilds playing the game. But to touch on calamine, calamine is a really common resource. It can be found pretty much anywhere off of like zombie drops. Most mage drops them. You can even buy it at the magic reagent vendor. There's also several ways that you can produce it. One of the most common and most practiced ways to produce calamine is by putting malachite inside of fabricalia. But because I don't have the alchemy skills or full lores or anything like that, we can't take that route. So my next best way to produce calamine is to take red black blend with coke and put it into a furnace, and that should give you about 569 calamine. The way we're going to be doing it is we're going to use our amaranthum. We're going to use our amaranthum and put it to bore. So you would want to take a stack of 10,000 amaranthum to 720 bore and throw it in a furnace, and that should give us around 563 calamine. But because I'm not using a full stack, I don't have full lores or the full knowledge of the tools we're working with, we're not going to hit those numbers, obviously. My build's just not complete, so, but that's one of the many ways you can do it. You can also go up and get tephra, crush it, get pyrozini, and then mix it with 715 calyx powder into either a blast furnace or a greater naturus. This method is really good, and it will give you a couple thousand calamine. but you need to be a full extractor to do that. So let's get to the furnace over here and start making a bit of calamine, then we can make a bit of messing. We may have to do it twice because we might not have calamine lore unlocked, or it's because it's in the pet bag. So let's just... There we go. So we had to do it twice, and our calamine lore hit 33. We got electrum out of it and a bunch of other stuff. So by using the catalyst, we have produced 59 calamine. That's not going to cut it. So what I'm going to do is go over to the magic reagent and buy a bit of calamine. But again, it's because of lures and all that. We should have got 563 if we used the full stack with the full catalyst and had full lures, this and that. So let me buy some more calamine and we will jump over into the into the kiln. Okay, so here we are back at the refining oven. So we know how to make our cuprum. We know how to make our Sabura powder from the first mining video, and we now know how to make calamine. So we're going to open this up and we're going to drag our cuprum into the resource, and we're going to transform this to messing by using Sabura powder as our first catalyst and our calamine as our second. So this is a 2-to-1-1 ratio. And then we're going to start refining. Up here at the top, it says we had about 8 seconds or so. It's counting down. So we managed to make 181 messing. Our lore for messing is about 71. Our cuprum lore is 40. So again, it all comes down to your lures. So messing is super easy to make. Just because calamine is kind of easy to obtain. Like I said, the best and most common way is to use malachite in a fabricalia, or to use that red-black blend, and you get that from Gabor with coke. And we know how to make coke from earlier in the video. If you don't, and you skip to this part, well, I forget where we made coke. It was somewhere in the beginning. And then, yeah, it's super easy to make. I think it should be a standard all around, and it's mostly what I'm going to be making my axes out of, so I actually have to get this lore up pretty high. So to move on to steel, I'm going to hand the video off to Oneida, or aka Rants About Gaming, and he's going to walk us through the process of steel, because I still have to read a lot of books, and I don't want this video to take longer to get out than it already has. So thank you guys for watching. I'm handing the video off to him, and yeah, make sure to check him out. His links will be in the description as well.
Hello everyone, I'm Rod from Rants About Gaming, and Bravado invited me here to help out with the steel making portion of this guide. I'll be going over the skills, materials, appliances, and catalysts needed to make steel. Then I'll go over the process of making said steel. So let's jump right into it. Skills. These skills are available everywhere, with one exception. There are lots of skills here that you could get but aren't vital for this guide, like malachite. We won't be using them in this guide, so I won't be covering those. So looking at skills, we're going to need 200 total points in material lore. Under material lore, you'll find petrology and metallurgy. Each will cost you 100 primary points. Under petrology, you will need mineralogy, igneous rock, and sedimentary rock. Under mineralogy, you will need blood ore and coke. Under igneous rock, you will need granum. And under sedimentary rock, you'll need coal ore, calx lore, and Sabura lore. Under metallurgy, you will need basic metals and iron-based alloys. Under basic metals, you will need pig iron lore. Iron-based alloys, you'll need grain steel and steel lore, which is the exception I spoke of and can be found in Meduli Tower. Crafting appliances will cost you a total of 100 points. Those 100 points will go into ore extraction appliances. Under ore extraction appliances, we need thermal appliances, comminutors, and mechanical appliances. Under thermal appliances, we need furnace operation and refining expertise. Under comminutors, we need crusher. And under mechanical appliances, we need a tractor. Extraction skills will cost us a total of 200 primary points. Under extraction, we have basic extraction, which will cost you 100 points, and intermediate ore extraction, which will cost you 100 points. Advanced is not needed, but if you have the points, you can go ahead and get that as well. Materials. The materials that you will need to mine to get started are granum, Sabura, and calx, all of which are covered in another part of this guide. From granum we'll get blood ore, from blood ore we'll get pig iron, from pig iron we'll get grain steel, and from grain steel we'll get steel. From suburra we need suburra powder, and from calx we need coal, coke, and calx powder. As far as appliances, it's important to note that appliance use is situational and their use varies depending on what materials you're trying to get. Therefore, I will only be covering appliances and processes that yield the most materials for making steel. The appliances we'll need are the crusher, the attractor, the furnace, and the refining oven. Catalysts. Catalysts aren't needed for any of these processes but will increase the outcome yields if you have them. Additionally, different catalysts will yield different results. These catalysts maximize materials needed to produce steel. They are suburra powder, calx powder, coke, and coal. The process. These processes will give you other mats that I won't mention. For the sake of this guide, I will only mention materials needed for making steel. Also, the quantities of the materials being put into the appliance are all one stack, which is 10,000 units. Extracting. Let's start with suburra powder, the easiest and the quickest step in the process of procuring steel. All you need is suburra and water, which can be found anywhere. If you put suburra rock in the grinder with 900 water as a catalyst, it will yield 4,275 suburra powder. The next items we'll want to get is calx powder and coal. From calx you can extract coal and calx powder. The extracted calx powder will be used as a catalyst, and the coal will then go into extracting coke, all of which we will need in the steel making process. If you put calx in a crusher with no catalyst, you'll get 2,151 coal and 1,361 calx powder, which we will save for use as a catalyst later. Up next is the process of getting coke. If you put coal in a furnace with 600 coal as a catalyst, you will get 7,200 coke in return. Both of these will also be used as a catalyst later. Now that all the catalysts are out of the way, we can go on to producing metals. Blood ore. There are a couple ways to recover blood ore from granum: the crusher and the attractor. Granum in the crusher with no catalyst will give you 770 blood ore. This process gives you the most variety of materials, but not the max amount of blood ore. But if you put granum in the attractor with 720 calx powder as a catalyst, you will get 1,980 blood ore, almost triple the blood ore from the aforementioned process. This process gives you the max amount of blood ore and only blood ore. You won't recover any other material this way, and that's the trade-off. Pig iron. Once you have your blood ore, you can extract pig iron from it using the furnace. If you put blood ore in a furnace with 400 coke as a catalyst, you will recover 4,000 pig iron. Alternatively, you could use 580 sulfur as a catalyst and get the same result, but you already have coke on hand, so just use that. Refining. Grain steel. Refining pig iron with two catalysts, coke and calx powder, in a 2:1:1 ratio will give you grain steel. An example would be 2 pig iron with 1 coke and 1 calx powder will give you 1 grain steel. Steel. If you refine grain steel with 2 catalysts, coal and suburra powder, in a 2:1:1 ratio, you will get steel. For example, if you put in 2 grain steel, 1 coal, and 1 suburra powder, you will get 1 steel. That's it. That's all there is to making steel, and that's all there is to my portion of the guide as well. So until next time, my friends, take care.
So that's all there is to basic refining and extraction. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you to Rants About Gaming for the help with steel. Please, guys, go check out his channel. He's been doing a lot of Let's Plays with Star Citizen, and he's just starting out his YouTube journey, so he could use as much support as you guys show the guide. If you need further help, check the links down in the description, or check the comments. I always pin the most helpful comment, and I guess until next time, thank you for watching.